My name is Giovanna Acosta, and we have about 45 minutes left, and we are going to go over self advocacy. So, self advocacy is a very important topic for me. Essentially, we're going to talk a little bit about why you should give yourself your own flowers, why you should always advocate for yourself and make sure that, your value, your contributions are valued, and you should definitely advocate for yourself always. So let's dive right in. We'll talk a little bit about what self advocacy is. We'll talk about the importance of self advocacy for women at work and anywhere really in life. And we'll talk a little bit about some tips for self advocacy. It's a little hard for me to get any feedback because I can't see anybody. So if you have any questions or any comments, feel free to just type it in the chat, and I'll definitely be looking at that as we go along, and we'll be sure to answer your questions. Good so far? Awesome. So let's dive right in and define self-advocacy. So the first thing we're going to do is understand what it is really. So self-advocacy is the ability to speak up for yourself and what's important to you. So essentially, it's a three-step process. You're identifying what your needs are, you're understanding how you're going to get those needs met, and then you're clearly communicating your needs. So we do this all the time. It's a three-step process that we do without even thinking about it. But by doing that, we are actually advocating for ourselves. So let's take a look at an example. So for example, you go to a restaurant and you order a veggie lasagna. When your order arrives, you realize you have been served a regular meat lasagna, so it's not what you ordered. Now you have a decision point. Will you attempt to rectify your order, or would you say nothing, even though eating meat is against your values? So at this point, you decide to speak up. And congratulations, you have decided to advocate for yourself, and you're going through the three-step process that we just mentioned in your head. You'll identify what your needs are, which in this case is to receive your correct order. You will understand how to get your needs met. And in this case, the best way is probably to just notify the waiter, right? Just to let them know. And then three, you'll clearly communicate the situation to the waiter and clarify what the correct item you ordered was. So then you're communicating that need. So a simple three-step process that we do all the time. Sometimes it's easy, like at a restaurant when you're trying to get your correct order. Sometimes it can be really daunting and it can be very, very hard and challenging. For example, with a lot of situations at work. But in any case, it's the same three-step process. And a lot of the times, it has to be done. And we'll talk a little bit about why in the coming slides. So the benefits of self-advocacy, why you should do it. First is that it's not just about getting what you ask for, whether that's more money, whether that's your correct food, like we just saw in the last example. It's more about thriving in school, work, life in general, because it leads to all sorts of positive things to happen in your life. So individuals who practice self-advocacy are more prone to just greater success in life. Self-advocacy leads to increased confidence, self-empowerment, communication skills, independence, problem-solving skills, self-awareness, and overall awareness, because you're just more in tune to what's happening and how that affects you and others around you. Any questions so far? There's also a Q&A section here, which you can use as well. So feel free to do that as we go along. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about work, because that's really when self-advocacy comes up a lot. At work, it's really easy to just, go with the flow. And sometimes it's really hard to speak up because, we fear retaliation. We fear, that we can get fired or just look down upon. As women specifically, it's really hard to speak up. And sometimes we don't speak up because we don't believe in our value, or we don't believe that we can. So it's particularly important to do at work, because if you don't, it's easy to get swept to the side to for your needs not to be met, and then your work experience, your overall work experience, to become less satisfying to you. So if you wait around for others to take note of your accomplishments, you might never get recognized. It's just the way it works, especially in this fast-paced world of work and what it has become. Everybody's doing great work, and sometimes the people that get recognized are the people that speak up more. So the difference between staying stagnant in a role you hate or opening yourself up to more opportunities can just be speaking up. Failing to advocate for yourself can result in being overlooked for promotions, increased compensation, leadership opportunities, because we often think, or we've often been told, that you do good work, you'll get recognized. And that may have worked maybe 10, 20 years ago, but it's not the case anymore. Companies are just too large. Companies are just too busy. They're moving too quickly. And it's so easy for people to do good work to just get swept under. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to speak up. You have to make yourself known in the workplace so that you can get that recognition. So, if you don't get that recognition, if you fail to advocate for yourself, that can really negatively impact your performance, your engagement, and, like we said, your overall satisfaction. You may feel like, oh, nobody notices what I do. This place doesn't value me. This place doesn't recognize my talents, and that make you feel, just disengaged, and it may make your performance a little bit lower, because you'll figure, why should I do this work when nobody's taking note? Question so far. Is that something that you have experienced? If you have, you can place it on the chat if you feel comfortable. If not, that's totally okay. So let's continue and talking a little bit about why it's super important for people to do this, but specifically why it's super important for women to do this. So we are we're still in a time, where women are disproportionately underrepresented and underpaid at work. It's still happening. It's happening across all fields. It's happening across all all jobs. And it's still happening more often than we think, specifically for um, Black, Indigenous, and women of color by WOC. There's a population that is still consistently underpaid and underrepresented. And this is known as the gender and race wage gap. So, we may think that, wow, there's so many more women of color in the workforce. There's so many women of color in leadership opportunities, and that's great. But there's still a lot of work to be done there, and there's still a lot of discrepancies. So, on average, for every dollar that working white, non-Hispanic men make, women make as follow. So, women in general make 82 cents. Black women make 63 cents to the dollar. Indigenous and Native American women make 60 cents. And Latina women make 55 cents. That's the lowest across any demographic. That means that, for every dollar that a white non-Hispanic male makes, Latina woman is making half of that. And sometimes that can be across similar roles, not just completely dissimilar roles. So it's definitely a problem. Latina women specifically are the least represented in board positions, so leadership positions, and it's happening more often than we see. And in my experience, interviewing people. I have over 10 years of experience in organizational development. So, I've interviewed a lot of people. I've interviewed white men, I've interviewed white women, I've interviewed Black women, Black men, Latino women, Latino men. And I've noticed very often that Latina women particularly don't ask for anything. They don't ask for anything more. They don't ask for more money. They don't ask for more equity. They don't ask for more leadership opportunities in the interview process. So, there is a lack of advocating for themselves. And I'm not saying that that's, to blame for all of this. This is obviously a systemic issue, but it's definitely a trend that I've seen. So this wage gap that we spoke of is estimated to close in 135 years. For Latinas, that's 185 years. So I don't know if you plan to be alive 135 years from now, but I don't. That's unacceptable, and it's just too long of a wait. It's a long, long time to wait for equity and equal pay. So there are many organizations right now doing the great work to increase pay transparency. They're working with lawmakers to promote equal pay and pass the necessary legislation to get us there. So that's amazing work that these organizations are doing. But one way in which we can move the needle as individuals in this larger issue is by confidently and proactively advocating for ourselves, consistently and often. And like I said, I gave that example with the Latino women in interviews. It's not the one quick solution that's going to fix everything and fix all these issues, but it's definitely a start. It's one way in which you can proactively change the situation, at least for yourself. And once you do it for yourself, then it's easier for others to do it as well. Any questions so far? Awesome. So let's continue. And now we're going to review some tips on how to advocate for yourself. I see that some people are using the chat. Again, it's very hard for me to see who the attendees are. It's just not working for me. So feel free to include any questions in the chat. If you have any questions, any comments of the sort, I'll be looking periodically. So let's get to these tips. So when it comes to work situations or just any situation that requires you to advocate for yourself, there are a few tips that I think are super helpful for this. And a lot of them are internal. A lot of them, start with you, because if you believe in yourself, if you believe in your value, then you're able to express that to others and you're able to put that energy out there. So it is a lot of internal work, like everything that manifests itself externally always starts from within. So the first thing is to be self-aware. So, recognize your discomfort when you're speaking up and recognize that it's normal. Sometimes we feel that, I feel uncomfortable, so I'm not going to do this, or this doesn't feel right. Speaking up doesn't feel right. But try to understand the difference between just those nerves and like a gut feeling, if you're just nervous, it's a completely different feeling than just knowing that you shouldn't do something. So try to distinguish between those two things. Being nervous when you're speaking up is completely normal. It's actually pretty helpful too, because if you have that nervous energy, it does give you some sort of, some sort of endorphins, just to move around and be able to speak passionately. So it can be really helpful to have that nervous energy. And be aware of your inner thoughts. What is your inner dialogue? What are the things that you're telling yourself? What is the monologue you give to yourself? So if you're constantly saying, oh, I don't deserve this, I don't deserve more money, I probably don't deserve that promotion, and you're telling yourself these things constantly, then they are going to manifest themselves externally as well. So just try to always pay attention to the things that you're telling yourself around this. Recognize that we all have self-doubt, but rather than accept them as true, challenge it. What other thoughts can you have around the situation? What else can be true? So you can tell yourself, oh, the company doesn't have any money to give me a promotion, or, it's selfish of me to ask for more money when, I should just be happy to have a job in this economy, right? You can be telling yourself those things. Once you recognize that you're telling yourself those things, tell yourself something else. What else can be true? Well, I've worked really hard. I've been in this company for some time already, and it's time that, that my compensation be increased. Or, I noticed that some of my peers are making more money than me and we're doing the same role. I think it's time for me to get to their level as well when it comes to compensation, and to be fairly compensated. I think that I put in a lot of work. Look at all the things that I've done in my time here, right? So try to change those thoughts, not necessarily change those thoughts, but try to add to those thoughts what other things can be true, right? We tend to focus on like maybe one or two things. But the thing is that everything is super multifaceted. Everything has a lot of sides to it. Try to get to see other sides. Questions about tip number 1 so far? Awesome. So let's get to a second tip, tip number 2. So, tip number 2 is to recognize your value. Self advocacy includes knowing your worth and making it known. So, do not downplay your accomplishments at all. I think we're all often told, especially as women, you have to be humble. You can't brag. You can't say this. You can't say that. And it's there's some truth to that, right? Bragging and being too prideful can be poor qualities, and they can definitely look a certain way. But there's a difference between doing that and taking accountability for your accomplishments, and being proud of your accomplishments. Those are two different things. So it's definitely important to do that and not downplay your accomplishments. Not say, oh, whatever. It was nothing. If you spent 5 hours on a presentation and it was an amazing presentation, then it wasn't nothing. You put in so much work, you put in so much research, you put in so much time and effort. So it's not just nothing. Yeah, you did an amazing job, and definitely you put together a well researched presentation. One thing that I like to do, especially when I'm feeling down, or I'm feeling, imposter syndrome, or that I'm not worth it, or that, I'm feeling less valuable than I should, is that I make a list of my strengths and contributions, and what some of the areas of improvements are, and what I have done to improve on them, the value that can bring to a situation, etc. So specifically when I want to ask for more money, or when I want to ask for a promotion or something like that, when it comes to work, I try to sort of put it all out there in terms of what I've done and what I can do better, and what I'm doing actively to ensure that I can do better. So making a list of my strengths, my contributions, actual things that I've done, and also the things that I'm doing to improve are super helpful. They can give you a really valuable look at how good you're doing, and how much effort you're making. Because sometimes for us um, it can be very easy to downplay ourselves, and see that we're just going day by day, we're not really improving, but we're doing so many things every day to make sure that we keep getting better. And it's good to quantify that. Keep this list nearby for when you need the reminder. I keep a little notebook of lists. So I have a ton of lists that I do. If I'm feeling sad, what are some things that I could be grateful about? And I'll list 10 to 15 things. If I'm feeling, not valuable, what are some strengths that I have? And I'll list 1 to 20 things. And then I'll just have those lists just around me all the time, and just reread them whenever I'm feeling down. I think it's a nice exercise just to help lift your mood up. Questions so far? Awesome. Cool. So let's continue to tip number 3. Be prepared. So anytime that you're advocating for yourself, whether it's like being in a restaurant and asking for your correct order, or asking for a pay raise at work, you want to be prepared. So when the waiter comes and you tell them that this is not your correct order, you want to be prepared and knowing what the correct order actually is, right? Same thing with asking for a raise, asking for a promotion, asking for a leadership opportunity, asking to be in a board, asking to for your contributions to be valued, for recognition, whatever it is. You want to be clear and specific about it, and you want to be prepared. You want to have talking points. If you want a raise, for example, what is the amount or figure you would like? You should know that, right? You should know at least a ballpark. You should know what's standard for that role in your state, in your city. across your field, you should be doing that research already, because if you're coming to your boss or your HR department with a request, and then you want them to do the research and find out what the average is, they can definitely do it within their job description. But why not just make it easy for them? Why not just say, I've done the work, here it is, and this is what I deserve? Whenever possible, use data to support your request. So, what is the market industry standard salary for your role? If you are making $15 an hour and you did your research and you saw that the standard is $25 an hour for that role, then have those figures, have that number. If you see that, 80% of people in your field are making $25, then use that percentage to your advantage. Data is super important because it's really hard to argue numbers. The numbers are there. It's really hard for anybody to say that's subjective. Questions so far? Awesome. Tip number 4, align it to the bigger picture. Oftentimes, what you want doesn't just affect you, it affects other as well. I think everything we do doesn't affect us. I think it's sometimes very easy to think that we live like in a world where it's just us. And, even if you're the most, the most lonely person in the world that doesn't talk to anybody and doesn't interact with anybody ever, you're what your actions are not just yours, from the clothes that you wear, somebody else made those clothes, right? So, it all comes from a perspective of the greater good, and existing, within a world that's more than just us. So, think about how the things that you're asking for can benefit others. Think about how those things fit into the bigger picture. If you're asking for a promotion, it doesn't just affect you, it affects your company, it affects the people that now you will be managing, maybe, or, you know, or the people that will be your colleagues now that you're in a promoted role. So, align your goals to the organization goals, and showing the impact of your accomplishments helps show how your promotion can benefit everybody. So instead of saying, I want a promotion because I think I deserve one, and because, I need the money, um, why not say, I've put in so much work, and I know that I can continue putting work for this company. This is the value that I will continue to bring as an employee here. This is how I can contribute to our company's end goals, our company's values, our company's bottom line, whatever it is, the work that you're going to do, um, and the benefits that you will reap from whatever it is that you're advocating for, they impact others. So aligning that to the bigger picture and letting them know how it impacts them, it's super helpful to get yourself some buy-in, to get them on board with you. Questions so far? Do these sound like tips that are doable in terms of your day to day? I saw somebody write yes, but I'm not sure if it was to this question. Okay, cool. So let's move on to the last tip of the day in terms of self-advocacy, is to not be afraid to fail. And this is a biggie, right? Because it's the reason why we don't advocate for ourselves a lot of the times, because we're afraid of rejection, we're afraid of being told no. And the thing is that when you ask for something, there's a 50-50 chance that you're going to be told no. It's the chance that you're taking by asking for something, right? The answer will either be yes or it will be no, right? So you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with the chance that you're not going to get what you ask for. But if you really want it, you must be willing to take that chance. Because if you don't ask, the answer will 100% always be no. So taking calculated risks is part of life. Everybody that has accomplished something has failed. If you fail, you will recover. You hear all the time about people that, um, that very successful people that have been rejected, they've been told no. And it's just a part of life, but you have to be willing to take that risk so that you can reap the benefits of when the answer is yes. Because the answer will sometimes be yes, absolutely. So it's super important. Don't be afraid to move on if you have done all you can and the situation is still not working for you. So if you're told no, if you ask for a promotion or you're asking for more money and the answer is no, then you have to revisit, right? What are you going to do next? Is it worth staying there for a few more months or a few more years until you can finally get that promotion? Maybe it is. Maybe it is worth it. And then you decide to do that. If it's not worth it, if you feel like you've done all you can, you've asked for a promotion, you still feel unvalued, feel that this company doesn't value you at all and will never give you what you deserve, then you have to make a decision. Should you leave then? Should you um, continue your journey somewhere else where you feel more valued? Both things have happened to me. I've been in both ends of the situation. One time I asked for a pay increase because I was making less money than my coworker um, who did the same role as me. We did the same thing. The only difference was that he was a white male and and I'm a Latina woman. That was the only difference really. But in terms of work, we did the exact same work. My performance evaluations were actually a little bit higher than him in terms of performance output. So I asked for more money. When I asked for more money, I was told to wait 6 months and then revisit the conversation again. So at that point, I had a decision. I said, should I wait and wait the 6 months, or just try to find another job and leave immediately? So I didn't have another job lined up, but I was interviewing elsewhere. But I did stay. I stayed the 6 months, and then after 6 months I revisited the conversation and I got my pay increase at that point, which was still unfortunate that I had to wait. But for me, when I sort of balance whether I should wait or whether I should just go immediately, I thought that waiting would be appropriate and that, I can revisit the conversation again. So that's the decision that I made. In another role, I was doing the work of a director because my director was fired. So for 1 year after she was let go, I was doing the work and without the title and without the pay increase. So I asked for more money at that point, and I asked for the title since I've been doing the work, and I was told that that position no longer existed and that I wouldn't get the director title or the salary. For that particular role, I felt that I've been doing the work for a whole year. I've been doing the work without the recognition, and I've been doing the work um, that was really hard. It was hard work. I was learning as I was going along, and I was doing it to the best of my ability. So I decided to leave. I decided to leave that company just because I didn't feel valued. And then after I left the company, I noticed that they did post the job as a director. So I felt that I made the right decision when I left, because instead of being told, maybe we don't want you in the director role, but this is how you can improve so that you can eventually get there at some point, I was instead lied to and told that the position just didn't exist. So for me, taking the risk in both of those situations to ask for more money, I knew that the answer could be no, and it was no in two of those situations. There's times that I've asked and it's been yes, a lot of times actually, and it's been yes. But I've weighted those two things, right? Should I move on or should I stay here, right? So once you decide to ask for more, just be aware that the answer could be unfavorable. It could be an answer that you don't want to hear, and then you have a decision point to make. And that decision point is totally and completely up to you and what your needs are and what's best for you. Questions so far? I know that was a mouthful. Awesome. So let's move on to just one final exercise. We have a few more minutes left here, so I do want to take the next 5 minutes just to do one quick exercise with all of us, and it's an exercise on self-advocacy. So what I would like you to do is, on a piece of paper, write 1 to 3 things that you have accomplished, that you felt that you've accomplished, and that could be anything. We've all done great things. That can be buying a house, that can be getting married, that can be graduating school, that can be, getting a new job, getting a promotion, whatever it is that you feel has been a big accomplishment. Just try to know 1 to 3 things. And once you do that, I would like you to pick one of those items and just write 10 things that you did actively to make that result happen. So the thing is that sometimes we feel like the things that happen to us, the good things that happen to us, are pure luck, right? The accomplishments. Oh, I got lucky. That just happened. But no, we've actively been doing great things and wonderful things to make the good things in our life happen. So I want you to quantify those things. Write 1 to 3 things that you've accomplished. Pick one of those things, and under that thing, write 10 actions that you took to make that happen, that you actively took. So, for example, if you bought an apartment or you bought a house, one of the things that you did was save. You saved your money. You did your research. You went out and looked for homes. A ton of things that you did to make those things happen. So things don't just happen to you by luck. You make them happen, and you can make a lot of things happen. So let's take 5 minutes to do that. Any questions on the task? I'll write the notes on the chat as well, just so that you're super clear on what the task is. But let's take the next 5 minutes to do that. And in 5 minutes, I am going to come back and um, mark the time as complete. So please take the next 5 minutes to do that. You can start now. And please let me know if you have any questions in the chat. I'm just going to go off camera for 1 sec. Okay, time is up. Is there anybody that finished? You can just write yes in the chat if you're done, just so that I can know to move on. Or if you would like more time, you can let me know as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. Would anybody like to share? Would you like to share, Roxanne? No worries if you would not like to share, but if there's something that in terms of an accomplishment, you can share maybe one thing that you actively did to make that happen. No pressure. So you can write yes or no if you'd like to share. Okay, no pressure. All right, so let's move on. I want to encourage you to do that exercise as often as you can, whenever you're feeling down, whenever you're feeling imposter syndrome, whenever you're feeling that it's hard to advocate for yourself, whenever you're feeling that maybe you're not worthy of certain things. I think it's super. Oh, sorry, Roxanne, just saying this. Yes, please feel free to speak. I can't hear you. Are you speaking? If not, you can go ahead and type. I know there's Oh, sorry, I see a raised hand. Okay, there you go. Are you able to speak? I'm not sure what's going on. Sorry, I know the platform is a little odd. Oh, there you go. Hi.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank
Okay.
you for sharing.
Yeah, so one of the things I'm really proud of is I moved from Arizona to Illinois, and that's a huge thing for me because I moved from family and friends of about 15 years over to another state that was completely different and new.
Yeah,
Um,
it's scary.
and that was so I'm trying to think of what I had written down here. So I guess what prompted me to do that is just a change in environment, something new, something different, and it was scary.
Yeah.
I was very afraid, and plus I'm a single mom, so that made it all the more worrisome. It was very stressful, but now that I'm here, been here for over a year, I'm extremely proud of myself for this accomplishment and looking forward to more adventures.
Yeah. Wow. So thank you for sharing so much. That's super, super brave because it can be really scary to just move and start over in a new place. It's very scary
Mhm.
and it can be very daunting and challenging. So the fact that you have the courage to do that is super commendable. And
Thank you.
that you did it. You did it as a single mom. It takes a lot of work. It took a lot of action, massive action
Mhm.
from your part. So that's definitely something to be proud of and to feel that you've accomplished.
It is. Thank you.
Of course. Awesome. So yeah, so continue to do this exercise whenever you feel that you just need that reminder. Sometimes we have to remind ourselves of the many things that we've done and the things that we continue to do and how awesome and active and accomplished we are. So I want to thank you so much, and everybody else in attendance for coming in, for spending this time with me and talking a little bit about self-advocacy. I hope that it was valuable to you. I do want to invite you to join my platform, goodenergia.com. So will be I I want to share more of these resources, and a good energia will be the platform that I'll be doing that. I'm still building the website, so I'm going to share a link in the chat for a community called Mighty Networks, in which I have the platform for now until the website is up and ready to launch. So just give me 1 second. So if you're interested, just join us in Mighty Network. The link is in the chat. It's free to join, and you can just get access to some of the resources that I'll be sharing on there until the site is active. Some of those resources include things like, templates to how to ask for a raise, to business resources in terms of starting your own business, writing resources for anybody pursuing passions in writing, arts, and things like that, and just general career resources that I think will be super helpful in terms of helping optimize your career. You can also email me at giovanna.acosta@gmail.com if you have any questions. So thanks again, and I hope you have a great day. Bye, everyone.